It is a fantastic Tuesday morning, the 3rd of March 2026. Greetings to you, the lovely GIC viewers and listeners within and beyond the borders of the Republic of Namibia, and a very warm welcome to today's Public Enterprises Information Sharing Session. As always, we are coming to you live and direct from the Government Information Center studio here in the heart of the nation's capital, Windhoek. For this morning's episode, I will be your host, Helene Philippus Hamunyela. Now, on the menu this morning, we are discussing Namfisa's mandate and the Financial Institutions Market Act benefits. And I am joined in the studio by the CEO of Namfisa, Mr. Kenneth Matomola, and he is here to shed more light on the aforementioned topic. But as is the norm, before I can officially welcome him back to the Government Information Center, I'd like to pause here and extend a warm invitation to you, Namibia, to be part of this conversation by following the discussion on our social media platforms, where we are currently streaming this show live. Now on Facebook, we are at the Government Information Center, the GIC, or alternatively, you can also stream us live on our YouTube channel, and our handle there is the GIC, the Government Information Center, Namibia. Be part of this conversation and add your comment in our comment sections on both of the social media platforms where we are currently streaming this show live. Now, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please help me welcome our studio guest for this morning, Mr. Kenneth Matomola, CEO of Namfisa. Mr. Matomola, good morning once again, and welcome back to the Government Information Center, sir.
Thank you for having me, and good morning, Helene.
All right. Now, to kickstart the discussion and for the benefit of our viewers and listeners, briefly talk to us about who Namfisa is and when it was established.
Namfisa is a statutory body that has been created by government. In other words, it's a public enterprise. And it was created in 2001 by an Act of Parliament, Act number 3 of 2001, with the view or aim to ensure that it exercises supervision on the non-banking financial institution sectors.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Matomola. It sure does provide a foundational overview. And now that we understand who Namfisa is, let us then unpack its core purpose. Briefly talk to us about Namfisa's mandate.
Namfisa has very critical mandate in the financial sector. Its core mandates are basically two, and this is codified in the law, the Namfisa Act. One is supervision, second is advisory. When you look at supervision, it exercises supervision on the non-banking financial institutions and their business thereof. On the advisory part, it advises the Minister of Finance on matters pertaining to non-banking financial institutions and their business operations. But later on, the stakeholders who are our main shareholder, the government, added another responsibility, which is tied to supervision, is to oversee compliance with the anti-money laundering and combating of financial terrorism and proliferation of financing with regard to the non-banking sector. So those are the critical mandate of Namfisa.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Matamola. That sure provides clarity regarding your regulatory role. Now, building onto that, institutions are often guided by long-term aspirations and strategic directions. Briefly talk to us about what Namfisa's vision is.
Like any corporate entity, Namfisa had a vision, and this vision, which we have crafted for our 5-year strategy, speaks to the safety, the stability, and the fairness of the financial system, where the system should contribute to economic development of Namibia, in which the customers are protected. And that's what we have envisaged for foreseeable time in the next 5 years.
All right. And of course, now flowing from the vision, briefly talk to us about what Namfisa's mission is.
The mission normally comes from what the policymaker intended for this organization, which is basically is to regulate and supervise financial institutions, financial intermediaries, to foster stable, fair, non-banking financial sector, to promote consumer protection, and to provide sound advice to the Minister of Finance. And that is our mission as the authority.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Matamola, for outlining that. Now, to better understand the scope of your work, we would like to kindly find out what the financial institutions under the supervision of Namfisa are.
Namfisa supervises quite a range of entities, and to make it simple, anything that is not a bank but it's a financial institution that is supervised by Namfisa. But maybe to unpack it a little bit more, Namfisa supervises insurance companies, both long and short term. Some might call them life or non-life insurance companies, insurance brokers and agents, asset management companies, unit trusts, or some might call them collective investment schemes, pension funds, some might even call them retirement funds, medical aid funds. Currently, the Act also speaks to us to provide supervision on the public accountants and auditors, the stock exchanges and stock brokers, friendly societies. In some jurisdiction, when they look at friendly societies, they might speak to stock flows like our neighbors in South Africa, the money lenders or the micro lenders. Those are the entities that falls within our regulatory ambit. As we speak currently, if you look at the financial sector assets, 70% of those assets are in the non-banking sector.
Right.
The latest statistics that you can find in our published information, in excess of 500 billion in assets are in the non-banking sector. Okay. And that makes up 70% of the financial sector's assets. So it's quite a huge responsibility.
Absolutely. Now, on behalf of the viewers and listeners, perhaps they are wondering, sometimes you see we have, are they called cash loans or Yeah, I think cash loans. Are they also part of the institutions that you regulate?
That's correct. In terms of the law, we have two types of pieces of legislation. One is called the Usury Act of 1968. This one regulates the money lending transactions.
Right.
There is another piece of legislation which is called Micro Lending Act. The Micro Lending Act regulates the what we call cash loans.
Right.
And the cash loans are categorized into two. There are those that we call payday lenders, which they give you money for 30 days and you repay the money. And there are those that lend on a longer term. Those are long-term lenders. They can lend up to 60 months.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Matomola. I think I interjected. You can proceed from where we left off.
Yeah, where we left off, I'm sure you wanted to know more about the legislative instruments that Namfisa administer.
Okay.
They are in excess of 12 pieces of legislation which were enacted at different times. We have the Financial Institutions Investment Funds Act of 1984, the Financial Intelligence Act, the Friendly Societies Act, Inspections of Financial Institutions, Long and Short-Term Insurance Acts, and we have our Establishing Act, which is the Financial Institution Supervisory Authority Act, the Medical Aid Funds Act, Pension Funds Act, Stock Exchange Control Act, Unit Trust Control Act, Usury Act. So you can see it's quite a range of them, and they were enacted at different times. Some were even enacted as far back as 1956.
Right. Okay. Now, thank you, Mr. Matomola, for clarifying the legal framework for us. It helps knowing that so much has been done, and though, like you earlier on mentioned, that some of them dates far back as 1950-something, right? But the good thing is that we don't just sit with such, but we improvise on that, and there is something called, for the betterment of service provision. Thank you so much for letting us in on the legal framework. Now, Namibia, if you have just tuned in, you are tuned into a public enterprises information sharing session. And as earlier mentioned, we are coming to you live and direct from the Government Information Center studio. And for this morning, I am your host. My name is Heleni Felapo-Samunyela. And I am joined by the CEO of Namfisa, Mr. Kenneth Matomola. And we are unpacking Namfisa's mandate and the Financial Institutions Market Act benefits. And you too can be part of this conversation by following the discussion on our social media platforms, where we are currently streaming this show live. Now on Facebook, we are at the Government Information Center, the GIC, or you can also stream us live on our YouTube channel, and our handle there is the GIC Namibia, the Government Information Center. Be part of this conversation and add your contributions in our comment sections on both the social media platforms where we are currently streaming this show live. Now, as we continue with our discussion in the studio, Mr. Matomola, talk to us about some of the regulatory and supervisory challenges that Namfisa has encountered thus far.
No, thank you, Eleni, and that is important because it contextualizes what we are faced with. One of the issues is the outdated legislative frameworks. As I have said initially, that some of the acts dates back were crafted by some of our ancestors, and they are archaic and hinders innovations, and they fail to accommodate the modern financial services and products.
Right.
Because the financial sector is evolving.
Absolutely.
You cannot continue to regulate and supervise them with old tools. And the other challenge that we are facing, given the outdated legislative frameworks, is the issue that the approach of supervision that this outdated legislation imposes on Namfisa. They impose the supervisory approach, which is compliance driven and which is much rigid. The world has moved on and have moved towards more dynamic and effective risk-based supervision.
Right.
But given the current laws, which embrace compliance-based, that becomes a little bit of a challenge for us to move into the modern way of supervising financial institutions.
Right.
You can also imagine with the old laws that we have currently, our powers and tools are inadequate, very insufficient. They lack some inadequate supervisory powers and enforcement powers, and therefore they become an hindrance in terms of addressing some misconducts in the market, and this creates a big challenge for us. And I can give you an example. Some of the acts impose some administrative fines when you are convicted or found wanting by courts of law, amounts that's about less than $100. So people can choose not to comply and pay $100. And all those makes our supervisory tools to be insufficient.
Right.
And the other thing that we have noted is the issue of governance conflicts, where you'll find that structurally the way Namfisa is structured, the CEO is the registrar of all the financial institutions, and there's the board. The board is an administrative board.
Right.
It does not have regulatory functions, and when it comes to availing resources, then there is that conflict between the registrar and the board, and resources might not be availed due to that tension between the registrar as well as the administrative board. I mentioned here that the acts were promulgated in different times.
Right.
They become so fragmented, call this regulatory arbitrages, and they become inconsistent. And at the end, they exacerbate the costs for regulation and supervision.
Indeed.
And this can create inefficiencies in the market. And maybe finally, one of the shortcomings or the challenges that we face. The current Establishing Act, the Namfisa Act, does not speak to consumer protection, and therefore consumer protection becomes a little bit weak.
Right.
And the recourse mechanism for consumers becomes a little bit challenged. In some cases, we rely on moral suasion because we do not have sufficient backing of the law.
Okay.
And to address all these are things that we need to deal with. However, through dialogue and engagement, entities like the Parliament of Namibia, international bodies like International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, have raised concerns of which we know of the gaps in our legislating framework and our supervisory tools, and so that we become more efficient and so forth. And we have taken these issues on board in trying to see how we can overcome these weaknesses and challenges that the current legislative frameworks is posing on the authority.
All right. No, thank you so much, Mr. Matumola, for, indicating that the challenges, of course, and we know as humans, change is inevitable, and with change, of course, comes challenges. We appreciate that you have identified the challenges that you've just mentioned. But now it brings us to a point of wanting to know, what are the mitigating factors that are actually in place to ensure that the challenges that you've just mentioned have been dealt with?
Sure, whenever challenges are identified, it's an opportunity for you to address them. And what we have done from the authorities' point of view, we came up what we called a three-pronged reform agenda, where we focused on strengthening the institution, which is the organizational, which is Namfisa, and also we looked at legislative strengthening, that's the updates on the legislation, as well as the supervisory enhancements. So we have realigned our organizational structure so that we can improve service delivery. And also we have transitioned, despite the compliance-based environment where we find ourselves. Now we have transitioned to risk-based supervision so that we become more effective. So we have now a framework for risk-based supervision, and we are implementing it, be it that we still need the legal instruments to come into force. And on the legislative front, we have dealt with so many laws. The first one that came into being was the Micro-Lending Act, which was the stopgap measure to try and deal with the micro-lenders that is in operation. Then we drafted the new Namfisa Act, which has gone through Parliament and has been enacted in 2021. And the Financial Institution and Markets Act, which is commonly known as FIMA. These two pieces of legislation still need to come into force. We're waiting for the pronouncement by the Minister of Finance. And I'm happy to note that I was advised by the Minister of Finance that Cabinet has given a go-ahead for the implementation of FIMA and the new Namfisa Act. And there are still two more pieces of legislation that are still in making. The other one is the Financial Services Adjudicator Bill and the Consumer Credit Bill. All these are in advanced stages. We will soon have them going through the normal governance, that they can also be promulgated. So that's what we have done on the three-pronged. We are almost at the tail end of our reforms.
Okay. Now, we appreciate that, of course, challenges have been identified, but we aren't just sitting idle with the challenges. There is something that is being done to ensure or to mitigate these challenges that the Namfisa has actually encountered. Now, and of course, that demonstrates commitment to strengthening the financial system. Now, we will shift focus to the Financial Institutions Market Act, as it's affectionately known as FIMA. And if you are a viewer or listener that has actually been interested in the FIMA, now is the time. Come closer and get your pen and paper, because we are shifting focus to FIMA and you may want to take notes. Now, Mr. Matomola, what are the principles and the scope of the Financial Institutions and Market Act, FIMA?
Yeah, FIMA is quite a very modern piece of legislation, and it consolidates and harmonizes the laws that regulate the non-banking financial institutions, financial intermediaries, and financial markets in Namibia. So its approach is that it looks at prudential supervision, it looks at market conduct, And it also centers around the governance of the regulated entities and the risk management thereof. And maybe just to give you a bit of an idea, when we speak about the governance of the financial institutions,
Right.
We're looking at how boards should be constituted. We, in terms of FEMA, would want to have that it clearly states how board can be constituted and the duties of the boards of the financial institutions.
Right.
And we clearly says that 1/3 of the board members must be independent, and board members and key persons must be fit and proper. Here what happens, what we have noted is that certain institutions that appoints board members that sometimes do not even understand their obligations, they do not understand their duties and roles, and they are not fit and proper. Some of them might bring the financial sector in disrepute. All those are the loopholes that we have closed. And we have found that some principal officers at some points, they are not part and parcel of the board. Right. And the Act now requires them to be part and parcel of the board. And there are specific functions where the board is required to deal and manage the risks of financial institutions. FEMA also advocates for code of conduct and to deal in good faith, avoid conflict of interest, because in most cases conflict of interest becomes a challenge in addressing some issues. The duty of care is quite critical. Right. This is also being provided for in FEMA. However, if we at the authority notice that or observes that one of the board members becomes not fit and proper, the authority can direct the replacement of that board member. So, which means board members are all being vetted to ensure that they are fit to be part and parcel of the board. So, those are some of, in the nutshell, that it deals with governance, it deals with risk management, it deals with the standards of operation that need to be of high standards. Right. So FEMA is quite very broad.
Okay, all right. Now, thank you, Mr. Matamola, for highlighting the principles and scope of FEMA. It's highly appreciated. Now, to help our viewers and listeners understand its impact, briefly talk to us what FEMA intends or fosters.
So when you look at FEMA, one, it fosters the financial soundness of financial institutions and financial intermediaries. Quite importantly, it also fosters the stability of the financial institution and the market. You know, when the market is stable and the system is stable, then growth can happen. Okay. I alluded to the issue of high standards of conduct of business where conflict of interest is eliminated. These are what FEMA fosters. It fosters fairness, efficiency, orderliness in the financial markets as well as financial institutions. It also deals with customer protection, which is quietly lacking at this point in time. It also gives an obligation to us to make sure that we need to conduct public awareness and also understanding of the financial institutions, intermediaries, and the products. Right. That we can be able to partner with anybody else to try to make sure that we disseminate the required information. And importantly also, the issue that relates to the deterrence and reduction of financial crimes. This is also codified in FEMA. Right. So you can see that it brings a lot to try and develop our market.
All right. Now, of course, Mr. Matomola, on behalf of my viewers and listeners tuned in right now, the big question on their lips, or our lips, is rather, so what are the benefits, or what are the benefits that FEMA actually comes with?
FEMA have a lot of benefits. One of them, I can mention a few of that. At the moment, FEMA brings the issue of financial inclusion. What do I mean by that? FEMA brings, for example, on the pension, not on the pension fund, on the insurance side, we have the concept of microinsurance, which does not exist at this point in time. And currently, if somebody wants to register for an insurance business, he will need to register for an insurance business where the capital amounts is quite hefty. At the minimum is 4 million.
Right.
But microinsurance, you can register that one with less than the amount that I've mentioned. That's one. And also, maybe to mention something in the insurance sector or the entire financial sector, is the issue of plain language.
Right.
Where the language need to be in plain English that everybody can understand, that the legal layman's language, that these finer prints are done away with, that when you sign a contract, you can understand it. There is cool-off period that you can change your mind and say, oh, this is not what I bargained for, without any troubles of some sort. And for medical aid funds, there are issues that relates to, there are waiting periods, which has been shortened before. This could go over 12 months and so forth before you can start benefiting. These are things that FEMA has eliminated, and issues of treating customer fairly is now one of the cornerstone of FEMA. So those are basically the benefits of FEMA in a nutshell.
All right. Now, as we move on with our discussion this morning, Mr. Matomola, and we appreciate you unpacking the benefits of FEMA, of course, but we would like to know, what is the way forward for FEMA and the Namfisa Act?
The way forward, like I mentioned earlier on, is that FEMA is accompanied by subordinate legislation. Maybe I must also unpack some big words I'm using here.
Right.
Subordinate legislation, in simply English, this is bylaws, regulations and standards that accompanies the authorization of FEMA. And this has been discussed with the public and the industry, and now they are being finalized by the Minister of Justice. As we speak now, I'm told they are at the tail end of all this, and the minister is just waiting with that final drafting, so that the minister can say FEMA must come into operation on this given date. So I'm quite upbeat that FEMA will be implemented during the course of this year. So the minister will announce the operationalization of FEMA, and we will not deal with this as an issue of in secrecy. We will publicize the implementation of FEMA, so we will launch the coming into force of FEMA to the external stakeholders, that everybody knows that FEMA now has come into force.
Right. No, thank you so much, Mr. Matomola. At least we now understand that, FEMA strengthens consumers' protection of financial services, while at the same time it's also then maintaining confidence in the financial systems. It's something that at least we are being reassured of by the FEMA. Now, as we continue with our discussion, or before we move to consumer-related matters, I'd like to find out from you, are there any updates on or from Namfisa that you would like to share pertaining, of course, whether now FIMA or anything else on other matters?
I think one of the updates that I would want to share with the public is I spoke about the consumer credit bill. This bill was consulted upon with the stakeholders, all the public, and we redrafted the bill, and we deemed it fit after consultation with the Minister of Finance that let's share this bill once more again with the public so that they can have a look at those changed provisions and also provide their input if there's any.
Right.
And this has been, the public has been notified through media, and we are waiting to receive their comments by the 13th of March 2026,
Right.
so that we can consider those comments and then the minister can take the bill forward. This is the commitment from our end to ensure that there's transparency and inclusiveness in the process of bringing legislative instruments to life. So that's the important thing that I would want the public to have a look. This bill is on our website, and you are able to access it and look at what you can contribute to this very important piece of legislation, because it affects nearly everyone, because it talks about the provision of credit.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Matamola. Now, for unpacking that, of course. Now, some of our viewers and listeners may probably be consumers of financial services, and at this particular time, they may be wondering about their rights. Can I, as a consumer, complain to Namfisa when I am not treated fairly by a financial institution?
Certainly, yes. The authority has an established recourse mechanism. So we are mandated to investigate the regulated entities if the complaints have been lodged against them. And we have a dedicated unit that deals with that and to handle complaints.
Right.
To ensure that customers are treated fairly and that there is confidence and integrity in the financial system, to ensure that the complaints are resolved amicably. And as the registrar, I have also issued a directive to the financial institution to make sure that they create complaints resolution mechanism within their institutions to make sure that these complaints are addressed. And when complaints are received by Namfisa as well, we address them. And we also engage with the financial institutions to see how robust their recourse mechanism are all about, because it takes all of us to safeguard the financial system.
Right. Now, coming or shifting gears to the complaining process, what does the process look like, and what do I need to be able to make this, reporting or complaint that I as a consumer would like to issue?
If a consumer would want to complain about a given financial institution, we encourage them to reduce their complaints in writing. It's important that they provide us with some of mandatory documents, like the information concerning the complaint, the identity documents of the complainants, and also they can provide us with information relating to whether this complaint was lodged with the financial institutions, any other supporting documents. And from the authority's point of view, we have come up with what we call service level commitment, where we will tell the consumer and say, within 3 days, we will say we have received your complaints, and we will also tell them that we would want to resolve your complaint within given timelines, so that day's expectation is managed between ourselves and the complainants.
All right. Now, of course, now that we know the process, what are the complaint platforms that are currently available that complainants can issue their complaints on?
We take cognizance that the authority is not in every region of the beautiful Republic of Namibia. We are only in Windhoek, and therefore we have created different platforms. One is in person, where you can approach our offices, where you can find us at 51 to 55 List Street in Gothenburg Plaza, on the lower grounds, where you can find our complaint department. Or you can call us telephonically at 061-290-5134 or 0800-290-5000 during office hours. Or you can write a letter to us, where that you can fax that letter to us. It can be posted on our post office box, and, or you can visit our online platform on our Namfisa website, www.namfisa.com.na, complaints department at namfisa.com. Those are all the platforms. In person, walking in, telephonically, writing a letter to us, which you can either fax, post, or you visit our website, where you can log in your complaints. Those are all available platforms.
All right. Now, building onto that, Mr. Matomola, some institutions have, what you call them, they are known as, what, is it red flag, something. The word has left me now, but I hope to remember. But it's actually individuals from either inside of the institution or from the general public that if they want to raise, concerns of such, do they need to, or maybe rather, let me rephrase the question in this way, that when I, as a complainant, issue this complaint, can I not disclose my identity? Or what exactly is needed there? Do I need to disclose myself as Heleni Felebo Samuela? Or can I just say I'm anonymous and I'd like to, file this complaint?
There are two things that I get from your question. One is you are the person, you have dealt with a given financial institution, and you did not find joy in resolving the complaint.
Right.
And the formalities that I have alluded to, that's what you can follow. And also we have noted that there are instances where people would want to do whistleblowing on certain activities.
That's the one. Yes.
And we have a whistleblowing hotline, which is managed by an external party, where we would want to ensure that we have the integrity and ethics, firstly, for us as employees of Namfisa, as well as if there are any other fraudulent activity that is happening in the market that can be reported through this fraudulent line. The whistleblowing line, and we have been advertising the whistleblowing line, and you can find it on our website,
Okay.
and so that you can do the whistleblowing. And there you are protected. You can remain anonymous on
Right.
that. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for highlighting that, Mr. Matomola. Highly appreciated. Now, as we conclude our discussion for this morning, Mr. Matomola, what are your final words for this morning as far as the financial, you are the country's financial regulator. As a financial regulator, what is your final words for this morning?
As the regulator of the non-banking sector, I can confidently inform the public that the non-banking financial sector remains financially sound, stable, and does not pose a risk to the financial system. And this is not by coincidence.
Right.
It's simply because Namfisa has diligently delivered on its mandate. Also, I need to inform the public that Namfisa's mandate is quite huge. And if you look at it, the NBFI sector, we like abbreviating. What I mean by NBFI, we mean the non-banking financial institutions.
Right.
It's quite large, and it represents 70% of the financial sector's assets. And Namfisa also assures the public that we remain committed to working towards the objectives that has been set for us by the policymakers, or better put, by the public that we serve, that we would want to transform the financial sector for the benefit of the consumers and for the benefit of the industry, that the industry can also operate in an even, fair, and orderly manner. And ultimately, all this is done to ensure that the Namibian economy is impacted positively. And that's what we are looking at.
Right.
And Namfisa, like any other corporate entity, our information can be accessed on our website at www.namfisa.com.na. We are on social media platforms such as Facebook, LinkedIn, X, the former Twitter, Instagram. So we are trying to move with time to make sure that we reach all our consumers. And we do not only feature on this, we also do some outreach awareness, going to different regions where we can engage with the communities. We have what we call, for lack of better word, a moving office.
Right.
That goes around the entire breadth of the country, because we cannot be everywhere. And therefore, we have that view that people must access our services. And therefore, we deal with this on the social platforms, but we also move and get to the consumers themselves, and also we make use of all the platform that is available to us, like the information center, like the NBC, in their various language platforms and so forth, and how we can disseminate our information. And importantly also, we also have quarterly comic booklets.
Right.
That we issue to the public, so that those who have time, they can read. We disseminate this to each and everyone. And my hosts, I brought 2 booklets, which you can share to the viewers to say, look, this is more where you can get more information on some of the things that Namfisa is busy with to try to educate the consumers of financial institutions. On the screen, you can see we have a comic booklet that deals with FEMA benefits, an issue that relates to preservation of pension benefits. Maybe one important final thought. People normally think that FEMA is the preservation of pension benefits.
Right.
I can assure you that's not so. FEMA, in a nutshell, deals with all the financial sector, and the preservation of pension benefit was just a regulation that was supposed to be issued.
Right.
And this was put on hold so that we have to deal with broader public consultation. So when FEMA will be implemented, we will still need to deal with the issue of preservation of pension benefits. And for now, the status quo remains as the current law dictates.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Matamola, for making time this morning to come speak to us, to educate us on Namfisa's mandate, but also unpacking the Financial Institutions Market Act's benefit. We really, really appreciate it. And my takeaway from your final word is that even though you are currently only based in Windhoek, you do take service to the people, ensure that you take service to the people, because currently, as you've earlier on mentioned, you have not established footprints in all the 14 regions, but you have outreach programs that you take this information to educate the nation, and also visiting platforms such as the Government Information Center and other media platforms to educate the consumers in this country. We appreciate you so much, you and your team of well-versed, I don't know how to put it, but we appreciate you and your team so much for the hard work that you are putting in. I know challenges may have come your way. It may have seemed as a daunted task, but you've overcome. And of course, we wish you well in your future endeavors so that this too shall be a fruitful one. We thank you so much, Mr. Matamola, for making time to speak to us this morning.
Thank you, Helene, for hosting me, and we look forward for the next engagement, and we encourage the public that they can engage with us so that they can get clear information to clarify the issues that they might have, because we live in the world of misinformation, disinformation, and therefore you need to get the information from the credible source,
right,
so that you can make a well-informed decision.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Matamola, once again. Namibia, we have concluded this briefing for this morning. As earlier mentioned, we were discussing Namfisa's mandate and the Financial Institutions Market Act's benefits. And I was joined in the studio by Mr. Kenneth Matamola. He is the CEO of Namfisa. I've been your host. My name is Helene Felepa-Samunyela. We have another session coming up shortly, so stay tuned.